Hi folks, let's talk about the political performance art happening in Los Angeles, starring none other than our mayor, Karen Bass, the worst mayor in America. You see, the same Democrats who lit the match to every crisis in California are now wandering around the ashes in disbelief, clutching clipboards and nodding solemnly like it's someone else's mess. Karen is out here touring homeless encampments in Van Nuys like a tourist in her own city, gasping at the devastation she helped engineer. It's the political equivalent of peeing in the pool and then holding a press conference about the chlorine shortage. And the cherry on top, well, she wants credit for moving people indoors at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars, as if cramming folks into crumbling motels and calling that progress isn't just a rebrand of failure and utter waste of taxpayer money. By the way, folks, this is the kind of delusion that we're up against. And trust me, it's only getting weirder from here. Let's take it from the top.
This is all a part of an operation that's a part of the Inside Safe program led by Mayor Karen Bass. It's an effort that aims to help tackle the homeless crisis in Los Angeles, focusing on providing temporary housing and supporting services for those who don't have a home. The goal, getting people off the streets and keeping them off the streets. Earlier, we spoke to someone who lived inside the encampment, and this is what she had to say. Are you open to accepting a motel room or?
Yeah, I am. I'm 22 years old. I don't want to be out here for another 2 years, not even another year. I have a kid. I don't want to spend my entire 20s just trying to fix this. I want to go to college. I have scholarships and I'm just letting go to waste because I know what I'm doing, but I don't have the right resources.
Now let's set the propaganda aside and look at what this really is. A PR campaign wrapped around a cash bonfire. According to City Comptroller Kevin Mejia, whom Karen is actively blocking from auditing her homeless programs, the Inside Safe initiative has cost Los Angeles $450 million and has only permanently housed 1,039 people. That's almost $500,000 per person. And still, the mayor claims this is what it's all about. Now, what it's actually about, clearly, is optics over outcomes, propping up emotional narratives to distract from financial recklessness, as well as every other crisis that the mayor is currently involved in, which is a lot. And by the way, none of this is speculative because a court-ordered independent audit confirmed serious flaws in Karen's homeless programs. The city lacks adequate data systems and financial controls to track spending and results across its homelessness services, including the mayor's Inside Safe. Auditors couldn't even reconcile expenditures with services, making performance essentially unknowable, according to the LA Times. And the program's actual impact, well, it was minimal. As of early 2024, fewer than 1% of LA's roughly 46,000 homeless, just 402 people, had been permanently housed through Inside Safe, while only 2,153 had received temporary placements, many of whom later returned to the streets. Isn't that an effective program? And by the way, all that cash just keeps getting set on fire because last year, by mid-February, the city had spent $53.7 million on those programs, averaging around $21,000 per person placed, temporarily or not, according to the LA Times. Now, all that being said, what they did in this news package we just watched is handpick a sympathetic case like Soraya's to create the illusion of impact while shutting the doors on actual oversight. This is the game, folks. Hijack the language of compassion, filter it through their media allies, and weaponize it to cover their catastrophic inefficiency. And catastrophic doesn't even begin to describe it. It's not just a fiscal scandal for Karen, it's a moral one as well. And it speaks to the broader trend the Democrats are currently leaning towards, where ideology replaces any sort of accountability and public funds become the playthings of politicians who believe good intentions excuse the terrible results they get time after time.
I'm standing here today in Van Nuys in one of the most dangerous encampments that I have seen in my time as mayor.
Oh, wow.
It is operations like this that is why homelessness is down for the second year in a row.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to keep doing this until street homelessness in the nation's second largest city is over, because people will be housed.
Absolutely shameless. Karen has been selling a watered-down myth, claiming homelessness is down in Los Angeles thanks to her policies, while the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, commonly known as LAHSA, quietly massaged the numbers to help her pull this off. This is the same LAHSA, by the way, whose former director was caught awarding a $2 million contract to her own husband, and whose corruption is so blatant that even the LA County Board of Supervisors, hardly known for their backbone, cut ties with the agency earlier this year, but not Karen. Nope. She's using LAHSA as political cover, leaning on their data as if it were gospel. According to LAist, LAHSA revised the city's homeless count by removing 437 homeless from the city of Los Angeles total, literally pushing them out of the city count without informing elected officials beforehand. That last-minute tweak, by the way, boosted the reported decline from 2.5% to 3.4%, nearly an entire percentage point, even though the countywide total stayed exactly the same. LAHSA later admitted the adjustment was due to mistagged scattered site beds under HUD rules, but only notified officials after the new numbers were already made public and that narrative was out there. Funny how that works, huh? All that being said, Karen will never tell you what's actually driving the drop in homeless numbers. According to the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, 2,508 homeless people die per year, an average of nearly 7 per day, the highest number ever recorded and a 1% increase year to year, as reported by the LA Times. So yes, the homeless count may be shrinking, but not because people are actually being housed. They're literally dying on our streets. And for those who survive, many are swept, displaced, or bussed out of the city entirely. Tactics that reduce visibility, not the actual suffering. So it's safe to say that this isn't actual meaningful change that Karen is pushing here. It's a statistical sleight of hand. Something very familiar that the Democrats do. They just kind of fudge the numbers, you know. They use this shell game dressed up as compassion, all designed to soothe the headlines while the crisis quietly worsens underneath. And by the time you notice it, well, it's probably pooping on your front doorstep.
I haven't seen anything like this, even overseas. So I know that you can't go in there because it's a hazardous zone. This is dangerous for people to live like this. This could light up and explode. Those propane tanks, I think as I passed by, I saw at least 10. I don't understand. But I think most people who advocate for maintaining these conditions do not live like this. They're not sleeping here. They're sleeping someplace else comfortably. And they're trying to say to these people, continue to live in squalor until a building is built. And when you want to know why homelessness costs so much money, this is why. This costs a heck of a lot of money to clear this encampment, which is why we can't spend money this way. We need to spend money housing people, but it takes too long to build housing. And the notion that people should live on our streets until a building is built is insane.
This lady has been mayor for nearly 3 years, and yet she claims she's never seen anything like this in her own city. Must be nice to be insulated from the chaos you helped create. Karen toured this hazardous encampment like a shocked tourist, marveling at the propane tanks and human misery as if this wasn't the direct result of the policies she and the Democrats have championed for decades. And in the same breath, she blames the crisis on delays in building housing, ignoring the fact that her own administration burns hundreds of millions on bloated programs like her favorite Inside Safe, as we just saw a few moments ago, with virtually no permanent results. What this moment reveals is the pathological disconnect between Democrat leaders and the reality their ideology produces. The people who insist we lead with compassion are never the ones living in filth, dodging fentanyl fumes and fire hazards. They're the ones writing press releases, crafting sound bites, and hiding behind the language of empathy while shielding failed institutions from scrutiny. It's a theater of concern, one that keeps the suffering in place and the political class comfortably on stage. And despite repeated promises, LA County and the city of LA have spent over $1 billion on homeless housing construction, much of it wasted on projects that either collapsed or never got off the ground. One of the most egregious cases is Shangri-La Industries, a for-profit developer that received $114 million through the state's Project Home Key program to convert motels into supportive housing. Now, instead of doing any of that, the company defaulted on loans, left properties in disrepair, disrepair and force tenants into eviction. The state is now suing Shangri-La for fraud and breach of contract, and the case has become a central focus of a new federal investigation led by the U.S. Attorney's Office into widespread corruption and misuse of homelessness funds in Southern California. So it's never been more evident, folks, that this isn't a one-off scandal. It's a glimpse into a broader systemic failure where public money flows freely while oversight is practically non-existent. And worse still is the covenant baked into many of these construction deals. Developers receive public land, subsidies, and tax credits to build so-called affordable housing. But after a few years, they're legally allowed to convert the units into market rate. So not only do taxpayers fund the construction, but we gift these developers a future revenue stream in one of the most expensive housing markets in the country and the world. Meanwhile, the average cost per unit in LA for these homeless housing units is $700,000 or more, compared to under $200,000 in states like Texas and Arizona. This according to LAist. So it's never been more evident that this isn't a housing solution. It's a rigged wealth transfer where failure is profitable and affordable housing is just a sales pitch. The people on the streets are pawns in this game. The real winners are the insiders cashing checks and flipping contracts under the moral cover of public good. Now, Karen Bass isn't only concerned with lining the pockets of her donors, she's also out here trying to prove that she puts LA citizens last.
And this decision tonight upholds that, which means we will continue to have peace in the city. So this is a victory for Los Angeles, and this is a victory because the people of Los Angeles stood together. I think the administration might have believed that this was going to divide our city, that our city was going to go at each other in division. But we did not. We stood strong.
This woman has no care for working class Angelenos, and she proves it again and again and again. You won't ever hear Karen speak about the small business owners being crushed under her administration's endless red tape or their neighborhoods being looted every night for the past month. You won't ever hear her talk about the families suffocating under the cost of living, driven by bad policy and bloated bureaucracy. But she'll show up for a photo op in a homeless encampment to justify funneling millions to her politically connected donors. And she'll rush to celebrate a court ruling that blocks federal ICE raids, shielding illegal aliens at the expense of citizens, which is what she's doing here, by the way, all while ignoring the billions the illegal aliens cost the city and the state, including $12 billion in taxpayer-funded healthcare alone every year. This isn't about peace or unity, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. It's about appeasing the NGO class that bankrolls her political career and reinforcing the idea that borders, laws, sovereignty, and citizenship are secondary to virtue signaling and donor loyalty. The real residents of LA, the citizens who pay taxes here, well, they're all just background noise in a narrative written by activists and reinforced by silence. All that being said, let's check in on these illegal aliens that Karen and the Democrats love so much.
We're all criminals to them just because we weren't born here.
But you do have a record.
Yeah, but just like I do have a record as a juvenile.
The judge granted Reyes a temporary reprieve, but this past Sunday, he was back in custody, accused of several new crimes.
Berkeley police say the bizarre string of incidents started here when Guillermo Reyes called 911 to report a possible break-in.
Officers arrived to find a broken window and found Reyes with a bloody hand. They took some information and left. 4 hours later, someone at this cafe called 911 for medical help.
Initially, I called in as a medical for a male breathing heavily, but now possibly a fentanyl overdose. Braids, no shirt, tattooed.
Police soon learned about a string of carjacking incidents. One happened here at this bakery, where the 3-year-old was in the backseat of a car, but Reyes was unable to get away because he didn't have the keys. And here at this gas station, where the 70-year-old victim was able to douse Reyes with gasoline before she was knocked down. And then down the block, where a big rig Reyes was driving stalled before he could get away.
Democrats love this, and they want more of it because it fits perfectly into their Marxist playbook. They need a perpetual state of crisis to justify their grip on power and expand state control under the banner of compassion. See, when an illegal alien with a criminal record goes on a crime spree, breaking into businesses, attempting carjackings with a child in the backseat, and allegedly overdosing in public, the response isn't outrage or reform from Democrats. It's silence, deflection, or worse, victim narrative spin. See, Democrats have created a moral framework where citizenship is oppressive and law enforcement is suspect, while illegal entry is treated as sacred. This is a consequence of turning identity into a shield against accountability. It's not about protecting the vulnerable. It was never about that. It's about weaponizing chaos to erode national sovereignty, vilify law and order, and replace merit and responsibility with victimhood and grievance. And the results, well, it's what we're seeing now. Everyday Americans living in fear while ideologues applaud the breakdown of progress. So thank you, Mayor Karen, for doing your part. So ask yourself, how much of what you've been told is actually true? How much of what you're seeing around is a result of organic progress? And how much is manufactured decline disguised as justice? We're living in a time when criminality is reframed as struggle, when chaos is branded as equity and dissent is smeared as cruelty. But beneath the Democrat slogans and hashtags, the real story is one of deliberate erosion, of order, of accountability, of the very idea that a nation has the right to define its borders and protect its people. If that sounds extreme to you, maybe the problem isn't the conclusion, it's how numb we've become to evidence. At what point do we stop outsourcing our common sense to Democrat institutions that no longer serve us and didn't even want to serve us in the first place? Let's be honest. And when are we going to start calling them what they are? Marxist communists. Because the longer we wait, the more permanent their damage to our society and our constitutional republic becomes. You tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.